In this lesson, we'll be working on the project file 9C. All of our clips have been conformed and synchronized into a multiclip. Let's bring it into the timeline so we can start working with it. First, delete the close-up from the timeline. Open the multiclip and hit F9 to insert, or hold the Option key while dragging the multiclip into the timeline. Scrub to the beginning of the sequence. It looks like any other clip. How do we make use of all that extra information packed inside? Try clicking on a different angle in the viewer. Nothing happens. Why? Take a look at the scrubber bar. It's solid white. This is the master clip, the one that lives in the browser. We need to load the timeline clip in the viewer by double-clicking on it. We now see sprocket holes in the scrubber bar. Go to the Sync pop-up. In the top section, Sync Off, the default, is checked, which means the viewer display is independent from the canvas. We need to set it to Open, so our canvas and timeline playheads will be synced to the viewer. Whatever clip the playhead is on in the timeline will be displayed in the viewer, and that clip is automatically loaded in the viewer for editing. At least that's how it works with normal clips. With multi-clips, it means you'll see all of the synced clips simultaneously as they play in the timeline, and it makes the viewer display a live switcher for cutting between those angles. In the Sync pop-up, make sure switching is set to video only. Now, and this is very important, make sure the timeline is active. You'll be switching in the viewer, but have to hit play in the timeline. So click on the timeline background, or hit Command 3 to make it active. And in the RT pop-up, make sure multi-clip playback is checked. Now hit the spacebar. As it plays, click on a new angle to make it active. The switch is reflected in the canvas window, and markers appear in the timeline ruler. When you hit spacebar to pause playback, the markers turn into cuts. Because we were switching video only, the audio is unbroken. It's tough to get it right in one pass, and you can still refine this edit in many ways. But often, you'll want to start over from scratch and use what you learned in the first pass to make it better. If you went back to the beginning and started over now, your first round of cuts would not be overwritten. You would merely be adding additional cuts to your sequence. And that looks like an awful lot of edits to undo. But Final Cut regards all of the cuts made during the last playback as a single action. So a single Command-Z undoes them all. Let's bring those back. Hit Command-Shift-Z to redo. And let's zoom in and take a closer look at those cuts. Here I have a medium shot. What if I want to change it to a close-up? You don't have to be playing back to change angles. Just park the playhead over the section you want to switch, and click your new choice in the viewer. No new edits were added. We just switched the angle within these two existing edit points. This is an important distinction. Switching changes the angle within an existing segment, and cutting creates a brand new segment with a new angle. Clicking an angle in the viewer when playback is paused switches the video. Clicking an angle when playing back cuts the video. You can also right-click the segment, go to Active Angle, and change it there. If you need to add a cut while paused, just hit B for the blade tool. Click to create a new segment, position the playhead over it, and click on a new angle in the viewer. Hit A to return to the selection tool. What if we like the angles on either side of the cut, but want to move the edit point? Just select the edit point, position the playhead, and hit E for an extend edit. Or use the bracket shortcuts. Or numeric entry. If you want to drag the edit and see the canvas 2-up display, just hit R for the roll tool. Hit A to return to the selection tool, and Shift-Z to fit the sequence to the window. If there's a series of cuts you don't like, just select them and hit the delete key. Then, drag the in point of the clip to the right to close the gap. I try to stay in the habit of dragging from the right, because the very first segment always remains linked to the audio portion of the multi-clip, so if you drag from the left, the audio gets extended as well. We started editing this clip by clicking in the viewer during playback, then adjusting in the timeline with standard editing techniques when paused. We'll look at 2 more ways to edit multi-clips in the next lesson.